Maria stood by the window watching as sleek, expensive cars lined up in front of the restaurant. Each one looked like it had just rolled out of a showroom. She smoothed down her simple blue dress. No glitter, no plunging neckline, but full of quiet elegance. It didn't cost a fortune like the outfits of Victor's relatives, yet it was her choice. Tonight was her husband's 50th birthday. Victor loved spectacle. A rented restaurant by the river, a live orchestra, a photo zone with his full-length portrait, and a banquet worth several million rubles. He was a man who craved attention. When Maria entered the hall, all eyes turned to her. Oh, finally! The wife has descended from her mountain. Victor's sister Alina called out loudly, smirking. Laughter rippled through the tables. Maria pretended not to hear. She was used to it. Ever since she'd married a wealthy businessman, everyone saw her as a provincial girl who'd gotten lucky. They didn't know how much she'd endured beside Victor when he wasn't yet rich, when they lived in a rented flat and dined on pasta with canned meat. Now he treated her like a relic of the past, something he couldn't get rid of only because it would look bad. At the table, Victor shone like a king. Tonight I'm surrounded by the people closest to me. Those who made me who I am, he declared. And in that moment Maria realized, he hadn't even looked her way. He hugged his mother, his sister, shook hands with partners, smiled at waiters, but to him she simply didn't exist. Then Maria overheard one of the guests whisper to another. There she is, his wife. They say he's marrying Liza soon. She's young, clever, works with him at the office. Something inside Maria tore, but her face didn't flinch. She smiled, took a sip of champagne and thought calmly, if I'm to be the disgrace of this family, it'll be only once, and for good. Music thundered. Waiters rushed about, photographers snapped their shots, and Victor stood on stage, radiant, confident, the star of his own show. Maria sat aside, watching as Liza, young with thick chestnut hair and a modest knee-length dress, approached him, carrying a little boy of about 2. He looks just like Victor, whispered one of the guests. Maria heard every word. Her smile faded. Victor took the child in his arms, laughing, letting photographers capture the scene. It looked too natural, too intimate, too much like a family. Maria quietly set her glass down. Everything that had been unclear for years suddenly became obvious. Liza wasn't just an employee. She stood up, her hands trembling, and walked to the children's room, where nannies played with the guests' kids. The little boy sat on the floor with building blocks, a crumb of chocolate on his cheek. Hello, sweetheart. Let's wipe that off before your mom scolds you, Maria said gently, pulling out a napkin. The boy smiled, trusting her. She wiped his face carefully, folded the napkin, and slipped it into her purse. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. Liza appeared in the doorway, eyes narrowed. What are you doing here? Maria replied calmly, helping the child. You seemed busy. Then she turned and walked downstairs into the noise of the party, swallowing her tears. Someone called, Maria. Smile. Photo for the press. She turned, smiled flawlessly with dignity and thought, you have no idea, Victor, that this smile is the beginning of the end of your game. A week passed after that disastrous night. Victor behaved as if nothing had happened. The same meetings, the same charm, the same indifference. But inside Maria there was no more pain. Only a cold, precise resolve. She took the napkin and a hair sample from Victor to a lab. Waited for days, sleepless nights. When the call came, 99.98% match. The man is the biological father. She simply closed her eyes and exhaled. No tears, no hysteria. Now she had her weapon. Days later, Victor gathered guests again, allegedly to celebrate a major deal. The same restaurant, the same lights, the same pomp. Maria arrived last. She wore a red dress, simple but elegant, and held a white folder sealed with the lab's insignia. Victor didn't notice her at first, laughing, toasting, hugging Liza, who no longer hid the ring on her chain. When Maria approached, his smile faltered. Maria, what are you doing here? I came to congratulate you, she said evenly. She stepped up to the microphone. The room fell silent. Tonight you spoke of honesty, family, trust. Now I'll show everyone what those words truly mean. Maria opened the folder. On top lay the lab report. Beneath it, the DNA results stamped and signed, with Victor's name clearly visible. She placed the papers right onto the birthday cake that read, Family is the greatest wealth. Silence stretched like a wire. Someone dropped a glass. Is it about Liza's child? A guest whispered. Liza turned pale. Victor froze speechless. Maria lifted the microphone again. You called me the family's disgrace. Now I'll show you who the real disgrace is. Her voice didn't tremble. She met Victor's eyes, not from below as before but as an equal. I forgive you everything. But I won't live in your lie anymore. She slipped off her wedding ring and placed it beside the documents. The gold band caught the spotlight, gleaming like a final line between past and future. Victor reached toward her. Wait, Maria, you misunderstood. Oh, I understood. Just too late. She turned. Guests whispered, filmed, murmured. Victor, the man who loved attention, looked small, pathetic. Maria walked through the hall, flashes bursting around her. Someone tried to stop her, someone whispered, "Good for you." But she heard nothing, only one word echoing in her mind, freedom. Outside, light rain was falling. The air smelled clean new. She stopped on the stairs, took off her heels and walked barefoot across the wet stone. With every step, the pain and humiliation slipped away. Only lightness remained. Later that evening, Victor called. She didn't answer. Then his lawyer came, divorce papers, compensation, shares. She signed in silence. I don't want your money, she said. I just want never to be called a disgrace again. The lawyer lowered his eyes. Now they said that about Victor. Maria stood on her balcony, watching dawn paint the sky. A cup of tea in her hands, peace in her heart. And she whispered to herself, sometimes to reclaim your dignity, all you need is one napkin, and the courage not to stay silent. Then she smiled, truly smiled.